America, we got to get back to doing what's expected of us as free citizens in this democracy. That means being tolerant, being respectful, staying informed, and being engaged. I'm former Congressman Joe Walsh. Follow me here and join the millions of Americans who are renewing their social contract with each other. The social contract, it's on us. You know, my familiar mantra is this is not about Trump. This is about us. Hope you all had a good weekend. Happy Monday, everybody. Trump is who he is. A mad, cruel, pathologically dishonest tyrant. Pretty much doing what he said he was going to do during the campaign. Be a dictator, be a king, ignore the rule of law. Trump's doing what he said he would do. This isn't about Trump. I could say this every day. I do say this every day. This is about us. Really simple. Trump's acting like a tyrant. Trump believes he's above the law. Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about the law. Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about court orders. That's Trump. What about us? Do we care? Do the American people care about the rule of law? Do the American people care about what a court says, what a federal judge says? It's about us. Do the American people want to remain in a nation of laws or not? This is about us. Until I'm blue in the face, the absolute beauty of Donald Trump is this. Because he's so bad and so corrupt and so lawless and so cruel and so ignorant and so dishonest. Because he's all of that, he's forcing us in real time to decide what kind of country we want to be. Like, Trump doesn't give a fuck about civil liberties. Donald Trump doesn't know what civil liberties are. Doesn't matter. Do we? Do the American people care about civil liberties? Or not? Or when it comes to a legal resident in this country, because he's a terrorist-loving, Israel-hating jerk, we can just do away with his civil liberties, just do away with his free speech, just do away with his due process because he's a bad guy, because he hates Israel. Is this how it starts? This thing we call civil liberties, our freedoms as American citizens. By the way, I would remind every Trump supporter listening to me right now, when you are here on a green card, when you are a legal resident, you've got the same civil liberties that any American citizen has. That's the law. Or maybe you want to do away with that law. But is this how it begins? Is this how that whole civil liberties thing, that whole rule of law thing, is this how it ends? Like, because Mahmoud Khalil Palestinian, here on a green card, because he's a jerk and his views are offensive and he hates Israel and he's anti-Semitic, because he's all of those things, it's perfectly okay for the government, our government, to just detain him and do away with his due process, do away with his civil liberties. Is this how it begins? He's a bad guy, so it's okay to get rid of his civil liberties. Is this how it really comes to an end? Or take what Trump did over the weekend. Venezuelan gang members. I mean, my God, who the fuck likes or who the fuck cares about Venezuelan gang members? So because none of us care about Venezuelan gang members in this country, is it perfectly okay for Trump to do what he did over the weekend and defy a court order, put them on a plane, and drop these Venezuelan gang members off in El Salvador? El Salvador, where they don't know how to spell human rights. Perfectly okay because they're bad. Because these Venezuelan gang members are really bad. So it's perfectly okay to deny them their due process. They were in this country, their civil liberties, because they're bad again. Just like Mahmoud Khalil, he's a bad guy. He's anti-Semitic. Venezuelan gang members, oh my God, they're bad people. We don't give a fuck about their due process, right? So Trump can, as he did over the weekend, just defy a court order because these Venezuelan gang members are bad. Is this how, like this experiment, this almost 250-year-old experiment in freedom and equality and justice, civil liberties, all of us, is this how it comes to an end? We elect somebody who's a tyrant, who's a dictator. His political party and most of his supporters, followers, want him to be a dictator. So it's cool that he goes after bad guys and gets rid of their free speech, ignores their due process because they're bad guys, they're bad people. So America, fuck due process because these Venezuelan gang members are bad. Fuck civil liberties because these Venezuelan gang members are bad. Fuck the rule of law and fuck federal courts. MAGA, MAGA. I mean, this is up to us. This is not on Trump. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about the law. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about any old court order. Do we? Do we? Are you cool with the president of the United States ignoring or defying a court order because Venezuelan gang members in this country are bad people? So because of that, because they're bad people, Trump has every right to enact the 1798 Aliens Enemies Act. And under that act, just put these Venezuelan gang members on a plane and dump them off in El Salvador, even though a judge said stop. What kind of a country do you want to be? The kind of country that gives a president the power to ignore and defy court orders to get rid of people that you and I would say are bad? What kind of a country do you want to be? U.S. District Judge Saturday put a temporary hold on Trump's deportation of these Venezuelan gang members. Donald Trump, using the 1798 Aliens Enemies Act, which says when a war is declared between the United States and any foreign nation, or when an invasion is perpetrated against the United States by any foreign nation, the President of the United States can deport people of that foreign nation out of this country when a war is declared. Trump, using this 1798 Aliens Enemies Act, a judge, the U.S. District Judge, blocked the deportations this weekend to consider whether it was constitutional for Trump to use the 1798 Aliens Enemies Act. And the district judge, ordered all planes carrying these Venezuelan gang members to not leave the United States. And if they're in the air, the court ordered those planes to turn around and return to the United States. The Trump administration Saturday night ignored that court order, defied that court order. In fact, in a statement, the Trump administration said that this order has no lawful basis. A single judge in a single state cannot direct the movements of an aircraft carrier full of foreign alien terrorists who were physically expelled from U.S. soil. It's on us. By the way, Darren Hyde, you can't call me a jerk off. Well, you can, but you need to explain to me why I'm a jerk off. I'm all about starting conversation, starting dialogue. Trump tries to do something. He wants to get rid of a bunch of Venezuelan gang members who are in this country. By the way, we do not know who was on these planes that flew to El Salvador. You want to believe Trump? You want to believe the Trump administration that these people on these airplanes were all Venezuelan gang members? Feel free. I wouldn't believe a word Trump said. And already in the first 8 weeks, we've seen a bunch of American citizens swept up in Donald Trump's deportations. But again, the deal this Saturday, Trump puts a bunch of Venezuelan gang members on airplanes. Trump is citing this Aliens Enemy Act from the 18th century. Trump is immediately taken to court. A district judge immediately rules to stop, halt the deportation of these Venezuelan gang members on these airplanes. Stop, cease, desist. Planes don't leave. If you've left, planes turn around. A judge orders. The Trump administration defies the judge's order. And 4 planes carrying, we're told, Venezuelan gang members land in El Salvador. Trump administration came out yesterday and said, no lawful basis. This order from this district judge has no lawful basis. Again, the beauty of Trump. He's such a bad guy. He's so corrupt and lawless. He's forcing us right now, in real time, to decide what kind of country we want to be. The Trump administration said, Donald Trump said, that district judge's order Saturday night had no lawful basis. Excuse me. White Houses do not have the authority to decree a court order lawful or unlawful. The President of the United States, as of right now, doesn't have the power to say that a court order is unlawful. But what kind of a country do you want to live in? Would you like to live in a country where a president, any president, that gets a court order he or she doesn't like, that president can just say, fuck it. That's an unlawful order, and ignore it and defy it? Is that the kind of country you want to live in? That's what Donald Trump did Saturday night. He said, fuck it. This order is not lawful. We're going to ignore it. Up until this weekend, an American president didn't have the authority to say a court order was unlawful. But you decide, America. You decide, America. You want to live in a country, again, you get to decide. You can't just say MAGA, MAGA to me, Trump supporters. You cannot just say, I love Trump. I love Trump. Do you want to live in a country where any American president, upon receiving a court order that American president does not like, do you want to live in a country where that president can just decree that court order unlawful? Do you want to live in that kind of a country? I would remind you that if you choose to live in that kind of a country, giving a president the power to determine whether a court order is lawful or not, you are choosing to live in a country ruled by a king. And every Trump supporter, damn right, Laura, planes can change directions. The planes that were in the air, the court ordered, the judge ordered those planes to return. And I would remind every Trump supporter right now listening to me saying, MAGA, MAGA, Joe, these were some bad hombres. Let's get rid of the bad hombres. Trump can do whatever he wants to do. I'd remind you all that the day will come when there's a Democrat in the White House again. And if you're okay right now giving Trump the authority to defy a court order, you're giving a Democratic president that same authority too. Which is why it always comes back to this question, which is why the beauty of Trump again, fuck you, it always comes back to us. It's always on us. What kind of a country do we want to live in? What kind of a people do we want to be? Right? Had this question a week and a half ago. Had a legal American resident just grabbed in the middle of the night and detained by our immigration cops, still detained by our immigration cops, still held, right? Still no formal charges. Still no crime has been announced. Still no evidence that this Palestinian bad guy who was detained by our immigration officials, who Donald Trump wanted to immediately deport, still zero evidence that he had given any support to any terrorist organization. He's still being detained, held against his will, a legal resident of this country. You want to live in the kind of country where the government can do that, where the government can grab and detain you because the government doesn't like what you say. And a president, as he did this weekend, can just pick up anybody and cite the 1798 Aliens Enemies Act Alien Enemies Act, which again says that when a war is declared, there ain't no war been declared. Donald Trump hasn't declared war. And by the way, all my MAGA constitutionalists, the president of the United States cannot declare war. Only Congress can declare war. There's been no war declared against Venezuela. There's been no war declared against El Salvador. There's been no war declared against any Central or South American country. But do you want to live in a country where the president can cite this 18th century act, which has been abused before? The Japanese in America in World War II were detained, interred, and held against their will using this 1798 Alien Enemies Act. Do you want to live in a country where the president can be a king and deport whoever he or she wants to deport? And when a court says stop, hold, we need to see if this is constitutional or not. Do you want to live in a country where the president can just ignore that court order? That's what happened this weekend. That's what happened. And my fear, my worry is that way too many Americans are going to be perfectly fine doing away with civil liberties, doing away with due process, doing away with free speech if we're going after bad people. Like, I have a feeling that way too many Trump supporters, way too many Republicans are perfectly fine denying basic civil liberties of people whose views they find offensive. Due process of people they find bad and dangerous and offensive. So get rid of their civil liberties. They oppose Trump. Get rid of their free speech. They oppose Israel. Get rid of their due process. They're Venezuelan gang members. You go down this road, maybe this is how it happens. Maybe this is how it ends. We all eventually lose our civil liberties because we allowed the government to remove, to ignore, to deprive civil liberties for certain people that we didn't like. And because we did that, then the government came for you. And then the government came for me. And you applauded because the government detained a legal resident who like protested in support of Hamas. And so you applauded that. Said bad things about Israel, so you applauded the government detaining him, depriving him of free speech. And then you would be surprised when that same government down the road deprives you of free speech, because that government then finds your views offensive. This is what dictators do. This is what authoritarians do. What Trump did a week and a half ago to this legal American resident, what Trump did over the weekend, putting a bunch of Venezuelan people on airplanes, trying to get those airplanes out in the middle of the night. A judge said stop, and Trump said fuck it. And Trump supporters applaud. Republicans look the other way or applaud. Don't anybody be surprised by the erosion of civil liberties. Don't anybody be surprised. He's still being detained. And right now, another suit has been filed against what Trump did over the weekend, demanding clarification for what the Trump administration knew and blah, 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 the timing of, et cetera, et cetera. But it seems pretty clear from what Trump and his people have said. They knew what the judge said and they defied it. And again, I'll close with this. Right? We talk a lot. People talk a lot. I talk a lot about a constitutional crisis. I think we've been in a constitutional crisis for a while because we only have two independent branches of government right now, because the independent branch of government that I worked for, the legislative branch, they ain't independent anymore. They have all gotten down on their knees and pledged fealty to Trump. Congress doesn't give a damn about the Constitution anymore. We have two independent branches of government. But for some of you, that didn't meet the threshold of a constitutional crisis. Well, now here we are. Now the president of the United States has defied a court order. Constitutional crisis? The president of the United States has defied a court order. All cool? We'll see. Look, let's hope the courts hold. Let's hope the American people ultimately, though, say, no, I don't want to live in this kind of country. Let's hope that most Americans say, I do not like Mahmoud Khalil. I find his views offensive, anti-Semitic. But let's hope most Americans say, but our government doesn't have a right to detain him and hold him against his will and deport him based on his beliefs, based on those offensive views. Let's hope that most Americans are there. And let's hope that most Americans, right, say that about what happened over the weekend. Look, most Americans, right, Venezuelan gang members, if you're a Venezuelan gang member, I want you out of this country, but we have to do it the lawful, legal way. We have to respect due process. We have to respect civil liberties. And so when a court says stop for now, because what you did, Mr. President, may not be constitutional, let's hope that most Americans would stand up, rise up against a president who would defy a court order. I don't have a lot of faith that most of Trump's hardcore supporters will. Most of Trump's hardcore supporters, man, they want Trump to be a king. But most Americans, because look, guys, that's what we're left with. I woke up this morning thinking we're left with the courts. Let's hope the courts hold. We're left with the American people. Let's hope the American people oppose, because right now it's clear we have a mad, cruel, ignorant, pathologically dishonest tyrant in the White House. That is clear. Utterly lawless guy in the White House who believes he's above the law. We have his political party and most of his supporters on their knees every fucking day, encouraging him to be the king. We have a so-called opposition party, the Democratic Party, that is utterly lost, afraid of its own shadow, Chuck Schumer. So we got a king in the White House with a massive cult-like following. We don't have an opposition party right now. We just don't. We're left with the courts. And he's now beginning to defy the courts. We're left with the courts and the American people. And so I end where I began. It comes down to us. We get to decide. Trump decided from the moment he got elected, he was going to do a gazillion things and do them as fast as he could and dare people to stop him and dare courts to stop him. And if some court stopped him, man, Trump didn't care because already the damage would be done. Amen, Jalen. I'm not going to stop speaking the truth. Hey, did you know what else Donald Trump did over the weekend? He shut down the Voice of America. That taxpayer-funded entity that uses radio and television and the internet to spread the gospel of America, to spread the goodness of democracy around the world to peoples who do not live in democratic countries. The Voice of America. Something Reagan, presidents, Republican and Democrat, have advocated for, been advocates for. Again, to use us, America, that shining city on a hill, that beacon of democracy, to use us and to get our message into every corner of the world where people do not live in freedom and they do not live in democratically run countries. Voice of America, spreading our gospel, the gospel of freedom and democracy all over the world. Donald Trump over the weekend shut it down. Shut it down. And by the way, I'm getting back to the Constitution and I'm getting back to the law because Donald Trump does not have the constitutional authority to shut it down. And immediately this Monday morning, suits were filed over Trump's action over the weekend to shut down the Voice of America. And I have no doubt that in a week or a month or a month or two or 3 or 4, maybe a year or two down the road, the courts will ultimately rule that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, doesn't have the constitutional authority to shut down programs that Congress has already appropriated money for. But here's the thing, America. Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about whatever a court might say a week or a month or a year down the road. One, damage is going to be done. Trump shut down Voice of America this weekend. So just like Trump did with USAID, shutting down USAID, eventually courts are ruling and will rule. He didn't have the authority to do that. But here's the point. Trump knows this point. Musk knows this point. The damage will be done. There's no Voice of America broadcasting around the world right now. And there won't be this Wednesday. And there won't be this upcoming Friday. The damage has already been done. This has been part of Trump's strategy. Act so fast, knowing that he's got Congress in his hip pocket. Act so fast, knowing that the courts can't keep up with him. He'll achieve most of what he wants to achieve and enact most of the damage he wants to enact. So at one level, it's working. Congress has laid down. The courts are overwhelmed. You probably didn't even hear about Voice of America over the weekend because all people have been talking about was this other court order that Trump defied. We have a lawless madman in the White House who has a political party that has become a cult and will do whatever he demands. We don't have an opposition party right now. Democrats are in some bedroom right now just afraid to pull the shades. They're afraid of their own shadow. We're mostly winning in the courts, though it's taking time. It's on us, as it always should have been. It's on us. Will the American people rise up and oppose? No kings in America. There it is, right there. No kings in America. I changed all my profile pics from the moment Trump was sworn in, because I knew, thank you, Keith, from the moment Trump was sworn in, he was going to act like a king, and he has. Go to oneflaginitiative.org, that website. Join this No Kings movement. Let's get millions and millions and millions of Americans to all embrace this very basic American truth. We don't want kings in America. No kings here. Fuck it! No kings in America! My God, will the American people rally around this? Will the American people embrace this basic American truth? Do the American people still believe in this basic American truth? Or are too damn many of us now on our knees pleading, begging to be ruled by a king? We'll find out. Let's find out. Go to oneflaginitiative.org, all one word. Join the No Kings movement. I will never, ever, ever live in a country ruled by a king. Fuck it. I will never, ever, ever live in a country ruled by a president who thinks he has the authority to tell me and you that a court order is unlawful. Fuck it. No. Kings and dictators do that. Not American presidents. Not American presidents. oneflaginitiative.org. If you want to shoot me an email, by the way, the social contract with Joe Walsh at gmail.com. There it is. There's my email if you want to shoot me an email about anything. All one word, the social contract with Joe Walsh at gmail.com. Thanks for I need another cup of coffee. Thank you for listening, everybody. Be brave.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been The Social Contract.